Shalom, everybody. This is Nathan Mancuso of Coastlands Congregation of Messiah, and I wanted to just real quick give you an example that I see in the scriptures that fits the pattern of an honor status reversal. So I want to go to Genesis chapter 37 and read verses 3 and 4 to you. So in verse 3 it starts, "Now Israel loved Joseph more than any of his other sons because he had been born to him in his old age, and he had made an ornate robe for him." And in verse 4, "When his brothers saw that their father loved him more than any of them, they hated him and could not speak a kind word to him." So we're going to come back to that real quick, but just remember that they hated him so much they couldn't stand him. They couldn't even say a kind word to him. All right. So from there we know how the rest of the story goes, right? Can't stand him. They strip him of his robe, strip him of the honor that the father gave him, and they decide, you know what, let's just kill him. And they decide, well, let's throw him into a pit. And they decide, okay, we're not going to kill him. We're going to sell him off into slavery. And this isn't the dignified type of slavery that the Torah speaks about. That's obviously a subject for another day. But they shame him greatly. They strip him of the honor that the father gave him. So we know that when he goes down into Egypt, he's a slave there, but yet he is in Potiphar's house, and he rises up. He receives some level of honor there where he is basically in charge of Potiphar's house, right? And then from there we know what his wife does, and he is shamed in the eyes of everybody to where he's thrown into prison, thrown into like the pit again, and he's left there to rot away. But even within there, he rises, he receives some type of honor, some level of honor, even in a shameful state where he's put in charge, right? So he's very trusted. But from there, we know that he receives an audience before Pharaoh, interprets the visions, and Pharaoh honors him by giving him charge of the whole land. Only next to Pharaoh he's second in command. So he has the highest level of honor besides that of Pharaoh, pretty much. So his honor, he goes from that honor that he has with the father, shamed by the brothers. In Pharaoh's sight, he is honored, but that's not the ultimate status reversal that I want to share with you, although that is within that, I believe. So we know that his brothers come down several times due to the famine, and there's that whole back and forth, keeping one of the brothers, the cup in the sack, and all of that. But anyway, in Genesis chapter 45:15, I wanted to share with you. So his brothers are there, and Joseph finally decides to reveal himself to them. And he says, "And he kissed him and all of his brothers, and he wept over them. And afterwards his brothers talked with him." So up in Genesis chapter 37, they couldn't even say a kind word to him, couldn't even say anything to him at all. And then in verse 15 of Genesis chapter 45, when this restoration takes place, they begin to speak with him. And I think that's key. So if you look at the honor that he had with the father, that his brother stripped from him, sought to kill him, sell him off, send him off to the pagan Egyptians, the Gentiles, and yet they come down and there's a restoration that takes place. So the honor that the father bestowed upon him, now his brothers see that and they honor him. The vision that Joseph had of his brothers bowing down before him, remember the sheaves bowing down before him, we see that come to pass. And if Joseph is a type of Messiah, like we're probably all familiar with, we're going to see that take place again. So this is a whole shadow of the Messiah also in itself. But just wanted to share with you that the honor that he had with the Father, with the robe and the status and everything stripped off of him, and years later it is restored back to him, and he's exalted not only over Egypt, but in the eyes of his brothers too. So I think that's pretty fascinating, and I hope that makes sense to you, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to share. Shalom.